Today we're going to discuss cleaning the M17 or P30 pistol with safety version. We got our safety glasses. We're going to wear some nitrile gloves. I have an apron on to protect my clothes. We have our pistol. We have our bore brush. We have our cleaning brush, cleaning rod, along with a loop and a patch already on there. Additional patches. We have our cleaner. This is the modern Spartan Systems Carbon Destroyer, as well as the modern Spartan Systems Accuracy Oil. So our first step is we're going to make sure everything is safe. We're going to clear the pistol. Our magazine is already removed. We're going to lock the slide to the rear, pushing up on our slide stop. We look inside the chamber, as well as touch to verify it is empty. Next, we're going to remove our slide assembly. To do so, we're going to rotate our takedown lever. This is the removal position. We're going to hold our slide, pushing down on the slide stop, and remove the slide completely from the frame. Next, we're going to disassemble our slide. We're going to take out our guide rod and recoil spring. Next, we're going to remove the barrel. We will also take our fire control group out of the frame here. So you remove the takedown lever. And we can remove the whole unit here. Depending on unit SOP, you may be able to remove the striker assembly. You'll either have a push-in button here. This is part of the extractor, or you may have an Allen key head. In this case, we have the push button. So using a punch, push down, and we can slide the back plate off. The back plate removed, we can remove our striker assembly, the spring for our extractor, and the extractor itself. So now we've broken down our pistol for complete disassembly. Next, we're going to begin cleaning. You may want to have additional rags or paper towels for this. And make sure you follow the recommended time duration from the manufacturer. So with modern Spartan systems, they're going to say leave it on for several minutes, but do not allow it to dry. So on the slide, I'm applying it to the area that houses the barrel, as well as the guide rails and the bottom below where the striker assembly goes. On the barrel, I want to put it along the edges of the barrel circumference and the contact points. So in this case, there's a little ledge right here, as well as at the bottom for the spring. There's another ledge where that catches. Put some in the chamber. To get the bore itself, we'll put some of the solvent on a patch here. Attach our patch to our guide rod. Run the wet patch down. In this case, I went both ways just because we're just trying to get the wet solvent on. We'll let that sit for a little bit. We'll check our fire control group. For the most part, this is pretty clean. We have a little bit of carbon that appears right here. So we're going to put some on there. We're going to put it on the actual guide rails as well. We'll let that sit for a few minutes. Now that we've allowed the solvent to sit, we'll begin by cleaning the different surfaces and crevices. So I'm going to start by using my brush here and make sure there's no large deposits on there, and then we can change to a paper towel. So ensure that you're cleaning up all the specific areas that show carbon, as well as any surfaces that have contact or you would expect to have carbon. Note that if you do not remove the striker assembly, ensure that you do not get solvent into the firing pin port. Also, do not neglect to clean the exterior of the muzzle. On our barrel, we're going to make sure we clean those contact points. Clean the spots we observed on our fire control group. Make sure we get the rails. Inspect our striker assembly. Make sure we clean the actual firing pin portion. Due to the shape, ensure that the small crevices here are also cleaned out. You may want to have an additional tool such as a pick, plastic or metal, whichever works better for you. Once you've got them scraped and got the carbon broken up, you may still have to go back again with the brush. Next, we will use cloth or paper towel. Sometimes at some of these harder angles you may have additional buildup. Now we're going to move on to more focused cleaning on our barrel. So we're going to put a little bit more solvent on there. And we're going to again make sure the barrel gets coated. We're going to add our bore brush to this round, and we're going to start cleaning the bore. Do not go both directions unless your rod has a swivel on it. If the rod is a fixed rod, it's best to take the brush off at the muzzle end here, pull the rod out, and then reattach your brush. Now we're going to switch back. We're going to get a new patch, and we'll start with a dry patch. With the patch, you also only want to go through one way unless you can change the direction. So if you're feeding your patches like so, you want to do one direction. If you're able to fold it around in that flower shape, you can bring it back through, because then you're getting a clean surface. So our goal with this is once the patch goes through, we want it to come through clean. So if you look at our patch here, there's no more carbon residue, which means we are done with the cleaning portion of the barrel. So with all of our parts cleaned, the next portion is going to be oiling and reassembling. So we're going to use our Spartan accuracy oil. The ideal, we're not going to do the shooting right now, but ideally, after we put on our initial coat, shoot 3 to 5 rounds and apply additional coat of the oil and repeat for a total of 5 applications. And this is going to be the most ideal application. For right now, we're just going to do the initial. So we can either squirt it on there directly, you can use a rag or a cloth, or a cotton swab of sorts, like a Q-tip, or one of these larger types. I'm going to use the larger type to get some of the more difficult areas. We're also going to put it on our rails here. We're putting it on the rails of the slide and the fire control group, which is going to be the frames portion. And on a barrel, we're going to put it on the exterior. We're also going to put a tiny bit on our patch here. We're just going to push this moistened patch through so we get a light coat on our barrel along its bore. There are other smaller portions here we're not going to apply oil to. They're low contact. We do want to make sure that we have some on the bottom of the slide here. And if you observe right at this point, there is a bit of wear showing. So we want to make sure that we are putting oil on there. This oil will act as a lubricant and reduce the amount of wear that it experiences. We're also going to make sure we put some in the muzzle openings. With that applied, now it's going to be time to put the firearm back together. First, we'll put together our slide. Actually, let's put our fire control group back in first. Again, this will matter if your SOP allows for it. If your SOP does not allow you to do so, do not take the striker assembly apart. So with our striker assembly in the back, we're going to put our extractor in. We'll put our extractor spring back in. You're going to line it up. You can see in that little window there, the edge of the extractor will catch and line up. Next, we're going to put the back plate back on. Just like when removing it, you'll have to depress this pin. If not lined up, it will pop back up like so. Now it is retained as it should be. This also not only is captured by this to hold this pin in, the pin's spring pressure is what holds our back plate on as well. We'll return our barrel to the slide. Our spring itself is in good condition. We're going to return that back to the slide as well. It's going to catch on the bottom of our barrel at that edge that we cleaned. Now we're going to put our frame and fire control group back together. going to slide it into the back, catching that ledge on the frame itself. You may have to move the trigger out of the way to get it to slide in. Now that that's in, we'll return our takedown lever, which initially will go back in the open position. You may have to wiggle it, and then you'll have to rotate it up to get it to completely go back in. Then ensure you return it to the open position. We're going to take our slide and return it to the frame, putting it on the rails all the way back, and lock it open with the slide stop. Rotate our takedown lever, and now we went from the open position to the closed position. Just to make sure of ourselves, we're going to release the slide. We'll hold the slide as we hit the slide release. It is captured. Final step will be doing our functions check, still with an empty pistol. We're going to engage our safety. Our trigger does not release the striker assembly, and our striker firing pin does not fall. Next, we'll turn the safety off. It does release the firing pin. We'll cycle the slide, holding the firing pin back. We'll do the slide again. We hear the reset and click. Trigger again. This last section we'll do 3 times. We'll re-engage our safety. We'll wipe down the exterior, removing any excess. After the functions checks are completed, and if you have any issues and they do not successfully follow through with the safety or with the firing pin reset, make sure you disassemble the pistol again and inspect and ensure that you've reassembled it in the correct order and all the parts are in good working condition. If not, consult your armorer or gunsmith. Once the firing or the function checks are completed and have completed successfully, next, if you're going to return this to the arms room, make sure it's still empty, and you're going to present it to the armorer for inspection and acceptance. If placing the pistol in storage at home or in a duty location, make sure that there's a slight coat of oil on there to preserve the surfaces. Not so much that it's dripping, but just enough to show that the surface is slightly wet or moist. If returning the pistol to service, make sure the surface has a dry appearance. You don't want to be collecting dust. And then reload and put it back into service. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Take care and be safe out there.